This is Matsuzaka Satou. She appears to be in quite a bind. I bet you're wondering how she ended up here. Well, that's a funny story. To understand, we'll need to go back. Way back. Love is a wonderful feeling. It makes you feel fluffy, it makes you feel warm, it makes you feel special. Giving and receiving genuine love is great. Everybody deserves to be loved. Sure, that's pretty subjective, but I think you get the gist. Love can make us do all sorts of things. From switching off that part of our brain that makes us think logically, to moving mountains just to see that special someone smile. It's a powerful emotion. But, how far are you willing to go for the one you love? How much are you willing to do anything to keep them and the life you have with them as it is? That is a question we see answered to its extreme by one particular anime trope. The yandere. A pretty popular character trope in anime. The yandere is a character who is an obsessive lovesick psycho willing to do anything, and I mean anything, for the person unfortunate enough to be the subject of their affection. They are so possessive to the person they like, who might not even like them back, mind you, that they cannot stand the idea that this person, who might not even like them back, mind you, could be with anyone that isn't them. And that leads to them to take up more aggressive approaches for love. That is, murder. Yeah, maybe they want to eliminate competition, or maybe they're doing it to keep the one they love happy. Murder is never off the table for them. In fact, it's the first option. And in some rare cases, that aggression is directed towards the love interest siblings and even mother. Yeah, yanderes are weird and cool like that. We all know who pops into our minds when we think of yanderes. The poster child herself, future diaries, Gasai. Real talk, I'm pretty sure watching her awoke something in a lot of us. You were probably around like 12 to 15 when you did, and you thought to yourself, maybe having a yandere partner would be cool. But then you got older and you probably realized that would be a lot more trouble than you think. And if you still want one, well, it's a lot more trouble than you think. They should stay where they belong, in fiction. Thank you very much. So what do yanderes have to do with our aforementioned Matsuzaka Satou? Well, she's our messed up pink-haired yandere protagonist of the equally messed up Happy Sugar Life. With a name like that, you probably had one or two reactions when hearing it for the first time. You either thought it was going to be some sweet sparkly romance anime, or you instantly knew it was an obvious fake out name. Well, technically, it is both if you squint really hard. But one thing I can say is that this anime blew whatever expectations I had for it out the water, and continued to fake me out as the plot progressed. So what is Happy Sugar Life? Well, Happy Sugar Life is a dark psychological romance anime about this girl, Matsuzaka Satou, and the extremes she goes through to protect the love of her life, this young girl called Shio. Satou all her life has grown up wondering what love actually is, and has never been able to feel what love is like, leaving a hollow feeling inside her. That is until she meets Kobe Shio, a sweet young girl with a pretty questionable background who is somehow able to provide Satou with actual genuine affection and makes her feel whole. So Satou houses Shio in an apartment complex where they spend their days being cute and stuff, I guess. It's a pretty questionable situation that you can't help but scratch your head at how they ended up like that, which you'll find out about later. Right from the first episode, you know something is wrong, but you're not quite sure just how wrong things are. If the teaser at the start is anything to go by, I can't even say it sets us up for what to expect from the rest of the anime. The first half of the anime tries to let you drop your guard as it gives us a peek into the life Satou lives and how seemingly perfect it is for her. She's great at school, has guys dropping at her feet, and even working a stable part-time job. Everything seems normal. That is until she takes up a second job so that she can feed the extra mouth she is housing. And right off the bat, she's asked out by a co-worker. This is Mitsuboshi. He'll be important later. She turns him down though, to which the manager catches wind of and isn't too happy about that. She takes the opportunity to lure Mitsuboshi into her office for reasons, and he mysteriously stops coming to work afterwards. She begins to overwork Satou, which causes her to miss her precious time with Shio, which begins to drive her crazy. She puts up with it however because she believes it's going to be worth it in the long run. But then she snaps on payday, when she finds out that she's been paid less than the agreed amount. So she pulls off an r/anti-work move and calls out the manager on her BS, to which the manager shows her true colors. She's been jealous of Satou and all her cuteness, as well as all the attention she gets from all the other males. So in a fit of power abuse, she cuts Satou's pay. Their conversation then diverges into a clash of ideals on what love is. Manager Lady believes love to be affection geared towards her and her alone. Anyone that doesn't show her affection cannot be useful to her. She accepts and swallows all the desires of those that love her, and vice versa. Bet you desires aren't the only thing she swallows. But this conversation about love pushes Satou over the edge. She points out the very illegal things Miss Manager has been doing to Mitsuboshi, who has been locked in her closet all this time. So she pulls an ace attorney and has a breakdown, which ends up being caught on camera. Satou is able to live with a W though, as well as rescue Mitsuboshi, who's been scarred for life. The episode ends with one more reveal though. Locked deep in Satou's apartment holds what we can guess to be a dismembered body. And that belongs to the original owner of the house. But whoever that is, we'll just have to find out later. This is Happy Sugar Life. But this first episode doesn't exactly show us what Happy Sugar Life is. So not only does the episode introduce you to the premise, but also pulls the wool over your eyes in more ways than one. I have to confess, when I began watching it, I wasn't having fun at all. A big chunk of that is thanks to the pacing and the edge. The first couple of episodes were a chore to go through. It feels like things were simultaneously happening and not happening. So it was hard for me to keep going. At first the anime felt like it was being edgy for the sake of being edgy, showing how messed up people were. You meet a character and you think, hey, they don't seem that bad. But then they make this face and you're like, ah, there it is. As the anime goes on, you get to understand just how messed up everyone is in one way or the other. I swear, it's like there's something in the water. But then as more characters got introduced, with the full cast pretty much set by the 5th episode, it started to actually get good. The slow pacing and somewhat questionable writing choices started to play to the anime's favor, and reach a point where it went from bad to so bad it's good to actually being good. And I think that's thanks to its characters. A general rule of thumb I discovered while watching the anime was that if a character had their eyes drawn, then chances are they had something wrong with them. And 90% of the time, I was right. The main cast and supporting characters are just screwed in the head. Remember Mitsuboshi? Well, now he's traumatized, can't really stand being around older women. Can't really blame him though, he's a victim here, so you sympathize with him, as you can see he's clearly trying his best to overcome the awful things he's been through, so you try to root for him. But not less than a minute later, we see how broken he's become. He goes the opposite way and becomes attracted to young girls. And who becomes the object of his affection? None other than Shio. Yikes. This confuses you, but at this point it's too late. The person you were just rooting for has gone off the deep end, but you still feel bad for him. He knows what he's doing is wrong. He knows deep down this is unforgivable, but he can't seem to help it. He feels unclean and believes that only Shio can purify him. To him, she's an angel, so he begins his quest to find her, longing for the day he finally meets her. But he's not the only one searching for her though. This is Asahi, Shio's older brother. He's been desperately searching for her since she went missing. From his appearance, we can tell that he, and by extent Shio, do not come from a very stable home. They too are victims of domestic violence. He's out looking for his sister in an attempt to bring her back and finally live a happy life with her and their mother. He's impulsive with a short fuse, ready to do whatever he can to bring his sister back. But the way he views Shio is more than that of a normal sibling relationship. He sees Shio as, and I quote, the moon. To him, Shio is the one ray of happiness that can fix everything in his life. If he finds her, so will he find happiness, and so will he finally be able to have a normal life again. He puts her on a pedestal in a way that's just really unhealthy. You can see that every one of the main cast is broken in some way, trying to fill a hole they have with Shio. But who is Shio? Why does everybody need her so bad? Well, Shio is the linchpin, the person that ties everyone together. But what's interesting to note, for a good chunk of the anime, Shio doesn't feel like a character. She's just a cute plot device, and I can't help but feel like this was done on purpose. The other characters treat Shio like some item or higher being. They all see her as the solution to their problems. Satou sees her as someone who should be protected at all costs. Not from an angle of love, but more like a source of sweet happiness for her. You see this whenever Satou gets in a bad mood and goes yandere. Things begin to feel bitter to her. She freaks out and only desires Shio, who provides her with the sweets to cleanse her palate and make her feel human again. Mitsuboshi sees her as an angel, able to fix and purify his soul, the only way to make him feel human again. And when he does see her, he breaks down, seeing this as a gift from God. It starts out with him asking for head pats as a form of cleansing, and soon gets unsanitary thoughts of what to do with her. And Asahi, who wants to find her, wants to bring back his own source of happiness, setting himself on a self-destructive path, willing to do anything to find the one thing that can bring him happiness again. But they all fail to see who Shio is or what she's going through. Shio is like 7, dealing with her own trauma. She grew up forced to stay indoors, never really being allowed to leave her house, the house where she watched her mother and brother be abused by their father. The one time she did get to leave the house, she almost fell victim to truck-con. This flips her mom off and in a moment of weakness leads Shio out one rainy day and abandons her, only for Satou to find her that same night. With Shio being a literal child, she gets mad traumatized by this and locks those memories from her mind. But as the anime goes on, she slowly begins to regain these memories, as well as deal with some internal strife all on her own. This is when she really begins to become a character and actually gets some character development too. In fact, she's the only one who really gets any development, which is another stroke of writing genius. But her development is very, very wrong. With her background of being starved emotionally, with no meaningful parental figure in her life, she now sees Satou as someone who truly does care for her, and honestly, I can't blame her. Which is why when Satou commits murder, killing her best friend in order to keep the life she has with Shio a secret, Shio is totally cool with it, and still accepts Satou for who she is. I guess to her, this is Satou's ultimate show of love, and so becomes her partner in crime. To Shio, Satou has been protecting her all this time in her own way, so Shio wants to be able to do the same and protect Satou in whatever way she can. This is Shio's own way of love. But from that intro in the first episode, you know this messed up love story of theirs doesn't have a happy end. I mentioned earlier how the anime is built on a lot of fake outs. Fake outs that are executed really well. One of the best being just whose dismembered body is in the locked off room Satou and Shio reside in. From the start, you get a couple of ideas thanks to the way the anime presents it. At first you might think it's Shio's parents, but the moment her brother shows up, you realize it's not. But then you think it's Satou's aunt, who might actually be the craziest person in the entire show. She's a huge reason as to why Satou is the way she is, so maybe Satou in a fit of rage decided to end her because maybe she didn't approve of Satou's relationship with Shio. It sounds pretty plausible because she's suspiciously missing from the anime. But then she actually does show up in a very shocking reveal. So you're left stumped. Just who was Satou's first victim? And let me tell you, this reveal was so well done, I couldn't help but be amazed at it. So at the start of episode 8, there's a shift in tone. For starters, the anime seems to morph into a first-person perspective as if we were in some kind of visual novel. We're put in the shoes of some mysterious fellow whose name we don't know, whose face we never get to see, and whose voice we never hear. One rainy day, he runs into Satou, who seems reluctant to go back to her apartment, the one she shares with her aunt. So he offers to bring her to his place, where she can go freshen up and spend the night, purely out of kindness with no ulterior motives. And she agrees. In there, we get to find out more about our mystery guy. What the anime does is that we never actually hear him speak. His lines are unknown to us. When he speaks, we get shown some squiggly lines along with some static noise, so we're left to fill in the blanks ourselves. I was actually really fascinated by this. Turns out he's an artist and all he wants is for Satou to model for him. As they spend more time together, he starts to understand Satou a bit more and sees just how broken of a person she is. That is, until the day she brings Shio in. This angers him for an entirely different reason. The appearance of Shio in Satou's life makes her feel whole for the first time ever, and then we begin to peer into this man's thoughts. He liked when Satou was broken and empty. There was a certain beauty to that according to him, but now that she appears to be whole, she's ugly. So he decides to go after the girl bringing Satou happiness, which leads him to getting the bad ending. This was by far the most satisfying reveal in the entire anime, and I couldn't help but clap at this whole sequence. Happy Sugar Life is by far no masterpiece. A lot of the writing choices were just really whack, but it was a pretty fun viewing experience. The anime set out with a vendetta to make every character's life as shitty as possible, and it delivered on that. It ends with nobody really getting what they want. Remember how the anime opened up with our lead girls ready to throw themselves off a roof of a 12-story building? Yeah, the build up to that was pretty wild. Satou and Shio had finally planned their escape, made their way to the airport only to have to return to that apartment, which was being set on fire, by the way. There they run into Asahi, who's ready to take his sister back. Thanks to some shenanigans, he chases the girls to the roof where he confronts Shio, who says there's no way she's coming back to him as she wants to be with the one she truly loves. This breaks him, so with nowhere left to run, knowing that if they leave that building they'll get caught by the police, they decide to say their vows and jump. And this is where another fake out comes in. As they fall, Satou imagines what their life would be if they had actually made it through with their escape, and she realizes how deep her love for Shio is, and in some kind of final act of redemption, shields Shio from the fall, ending her own life. So everyone is left further broken than they were at the start. Mitsuboshi, while snooping around, ended up in Satou's aunt's place, and gets taken advantage of again, further breaking his psyche never to leave his house. Asahi, while able to get his sister back, is unable to recognize her anymore as she feels like an entirely different person. And Shio believes that thanks to Satou's sacrifice, has found the truest form of love, with Satou being reborn in her, making her a brand new yandere who's only a yandere for herself. Happy Sugar Life is pretty hypocritical about love and what it means to love, and that's carried on in Satou. She constantly clashes ideals of love with other characters who tell her what their idea of love is, but she shoots them down claiming only hers to be true, pure love. But she too is flawed. This makes things even more complicated as love is a purely subjective thing. Not once does she ever question if what she's doing is wrong, only until Shio lashes out at her. It makes me think that perhaps she didn't really love Shio, but loved the idea of being in love with Shio and how Shio made her feel. Which is why in her final moment, she sacrifices herself so that her love can live on forever in Shio. Happy Sugar Life is a beautiful mess, which I absolutely love. It also helps that the anime's presentation was amazing. The animation, while not anything stellar, was able to make use of some great framing and visual effects to get lots of intense feelings across. It really made you feel what the characters were going through, and the sound design was just superb too. Like take the OP for example, that shit ended up slapping, and it grew on me by the 4th episode. I'm well aware this anime isn't for everyone. Some of the stuff it talks about might be a bit too much for some people to swallow, but if you're into all this dark stuff, I strongly recommend. And if by chance you started watching the anime but could never really finish it, now might be a good time to check it out. It's just 12 episodes after all. Oh my goodness, kicking off the year with a long one, huh? But then I guess this is pretty normal for YouTube these days. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this one. I pour my heart and a little bit of breadcrumbs into every video I put out just for you guys. So if you enjoy them, leave a like and maybe consider subscribing. No pressure. As always, this has been your very favorite slice of bread. Stay toasty.